Hi, my name's Eva Cheng, and this is SEO in 2024.
Eva, what's your number one SEO tip for 2024?
My number one SEO tip is to not be afraid of building category page with backlinks.
Okay, so why are SEOs afraid of that?
I think there's a worry that if you build category page links, that it could be seen as like unnatural to Google. But it's just like with any digital PR strategy, when you start building links for a client, it's going to start and slowly build up eventually. And if you're doing it the same way as you would build in links regularly, then it should be seen as more of a positive thing.
But I guess it depends on how you define a category page and the content on that category page, because there are many blogs that just have links to blog posts and a brief summary of that blog post on category pages. So some people would associate a category page as just being that. Are you envisaging a category page as being more than that?
Yeah, so a lot of the category page links that we build, which is on our client's website, for example, if it's a wedding and engagement ring specialist, we have the engagement rings category page, and within that category page, there's the frequently asked questions as well as the products and anything which is useful for any customer visiting their website. So it's normally like a landing page for the category page.
Got you. Okay. So yeah, it's got a lot more substance to it, and it's the kind of page that people may naturally link to anyway. So ideally, what kind of links are you building to that kind of page?
Well, ideally, it's one of the ones which are like more topically relevant kind of publications. So if for going back onto the example of wedding and engagements specialists, we'd want to build links in brides.com, Hitched, all of the topically relevant sites, which is obviously relevant to that page.
And when you're reaching out to potential partners, do they sometimes give you a bit of pushback saying, we want to link to the homepage, or we want to link to a particular product instead of a category page?
Not necessarily. When it comes to a particular product, that's normally done through our product PR. So we would send them with a product in mind, whereas in this case, it's more of like using digital PR campaigns to build those category page links. More importantly, we tend to use reactive PR for this kind of strategy. So we would jump on an expert comment for these kind of publications and offer them the expert comments around engagement rings, anything that they need in terms of valuations for celebrity engagement rings, basic questions like what's the most popular engagement ring at the moment, those kind of questions and requests we always jump on. So then we can try and build those category page links, because the content on the publication site like brides.com would be very relevant to what the category page links content has.
And in terms of where you get those requests for commentary, is that just through your existing relationships that you've got, your private relationships that you've got, or is it using a public website like SourceBottle, for example?
Yeah, it's a bit of both, really. So I've been working on a wedding engagement client for around about just over a year now. And there are journalists who are looking for the reactive celebrity engagement commentary, and they come to me directly now that they know that I'm there and I'm offering a reliable source. But then also we do keep an eye on like Harrow, and we have response source requests and press uploads, which we look at. So it's through a bit of both.
Okay, so ideally, I guess you're initiating the relationship through Harrow or maybe another service like that, but ideally building the relationship so they come to you directly next time.
Yeah, and it's also whenever we know like a celebrity engagement has come up, we would like news jump and we would check which journalists have covered a celebrity engagement or who's typically covered a valuation of a jewelry piece for a celebrity. And we create that contact list and we send them the pitch of, hi, I'm working with X client. Would you like to cover this valuation from the most latest news on this person's engagement? And then we'll ask them to link back to a category page from there.
Okay, and in terms of the pitch, is that something that people actually are quite keen to read and reply to, or do you struggle to get much engagement and many replies from people that you're reaching out to for the first time?
So in terms of engagement, I would say open rates are quite high, but then it's whether or not they'll cover the campaign or the reactive commentary. So there have been many instances where I've went out with a celebrity engagement, which was for Molly May, I believe, and journalists covered it left, right, centre, but they'd never replied to let me know that they were using the commentary. So it's just one of those things where you just have to wait and see.
Okay. And are they after anything apart from just your content? Do they ever ask for cash or any kind of return or any kind of gifting, or no, nothing like that? It's just a case of them getting the content.
Yeah. It's because of the journalists that we are targeting, they don't tend to ask for any sort of payment, and which is good because it's against Google's guideline. And then also for the products and stuff, they never really ask for that.
So what do you think SEOs should focus on building category links instead of links to specific product pages, for example?
I just think it's a good way to try and build up your SERPs. So you'll get higher rankings on Google. So it's better to target your keywords. For example, for that wedding engagement rings, if my client wants to be featured higher up in the engagement rings keywords, then building these category page links for engagement rings and the category page link engagement rings page will hopefully slowly build up the SERP rankings for that client and get them up to page 1.
Okay, so basically you're saying that if it's a keyword phrase that's probably a medium to high in terms of competitiveness, then a category page is an ideal target for that, because it's the type of page that changes often. Google will see that it's been updated a lot. You can add generic content, about generic keyword phrases, update it all the time. So it's a really nice page to give you that opportunity to compete for high traffic keyword phrases.
Yeah, definitely. And it also supports like the EAT strategy for part of the site as well. So it's like, as we all know, backlink building and digital PR is part of an SEO strategy. So you need obviously the tech and the on-site to be on point too, because it's like those 3 pillars. But with EAT, it's got like the experience, expertise, authority, and trust for a site. So in terms of digital PR, it's who is answering these comments. So for the wedding and engagement rings specialist, what is their background in wedding and engagement rings? Have they been in the business for just a year? Have they got a degree in that sort of thing of like wedding ring designing or that sort of thing? And the more links you build for that expert, so in a lot of the cases we have X at company said this and values this at this price, and obviously offers their expertise around the subject and topic, which ties into the second E, which is expertise, and then authority as well. So if you dominate the industry with forward thinking, like press releases and campaigns, so the latest trends on wedding and engagement rings, the shapes of your wedding engagement rings, like which one's going to be the next big thing. And also with the reactive expert commentary, it builds the authority. So then you're becoming the go-to PR for a journalist on this topic. And also if a journalist was to search for your expert, along with the company, they can see all of pieces of coverage that you've gained in the past. And then with that, it builds the trust. So you supply the expert commentary frequently on the certain topic. So whenever you can. And by gaining those links and coverage, with your in-house expert, it builds your website to seem as if it's more of an expert within that field.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so at what point in your SEO strategy should you really be focusing on category pages? Because you may be a business that sells wedding rings, you may have very specific products. At what point do you decide to target a keyword phrase like diamond wedding rings?
So I think it really depends. With something like diamond wedding rings, it would be very niche and hard to target in terms of that. I would say it's better to just go with the wedding rings category page rather than diamonds wedding rings, because the diamonds on the top makes it seem a bit more unnatural in my opinion. So it could be seen as like unnatural to Google, because you're kind of forcing the link of diamond wedding rings rather than just wedding rings in general, because there's so many niche topics that you can go down, like sapphire wedding rings or ruby wedding rings. It's just very, very niche. Whereas if you were to build wedding rings and within that category page, there's all of those other categories like diamonds, sapphires, the gemstone, then from there, the authorities should pass on onto your website. By the time for like the what time and what point you should start building these links, I think it should be considered at the very beginning. So if you are onboarding a client who has no backlink profile and you know that their keyword is wedding rings or engagement rings, start building those links now. So then Google, along with the homepage links and along with the blog page links as well, just then Google can see that you're naturally building that authority on the websites.
And can you build up your links and then forget about it? Or is this something that you have to keep on going every single month?
It's one of those things where you need to consistently keep at it, because if you start to jump from like page 3 to 2 and you're like a little bit away from page 1, if you stop, then you will lose that place in 2 and like on the second page, because it's just one of those things where Google is constantly looking and reevaluating and indexing the websites and just categorizing which ones are most relevant for each keyword.
Great. Okay. And you mentioned in terms of how you go about building these links, a way was obviously responding to journalists if they have any requests in terms of content that they require for their publications. Are there any other proven ways of building links to category pages?
Yeah, so there's also like the frequently asked questions that you tend to have on your website, which goes alongside the guides for engagement rings. So, for example, you could have what's the most popular engagement rings, what styles and shapes are there, and what's like the upcoming trend for engagement rings, or how do you choose an engagement ring? Like those are frequently asked questions by the general public. So if you pinpoint it to a certain time and event, so like how do you choose an engagement ring? Like that's a great one for when you know the most popular time for engagement, like engagements are coming up. So Christmas, that's like a New Year's Day, like that's the most popular time for engagements. So you know that obviously people are probably searching for that around about now or even earlier, and you can outreach that campaign to journalists who would be interested in that kind of topic.
Okay. But in terms of the positioning of that content on your website, for that particular keyword phrase, how do you choose an engagement ring? I would assume that you publish that as a blog post and mark that up as FAQ schema, and obviously associated it with a category that you're trying to promote on your website. But the actual content itself would be an individual blog post. Is that the way you do it?
So we would have the content. So if you scroll on the website and you see the products, and obviously you've got your top bar at the top where it guides you to the different pages. So if you're in any engagement rings, you'll scroll past a selection of top products, and then underneath it will be like a frequently asked questions at the bottom of the page before you click to the second page or third page, or even categorizing down your products.
So the frequently asked question would expand and the content would be on the same category page? Okay. Good. Okay, so that adds additional content and authority to the page as opposed to getting people clicking off it and having thinner category pages. Great.
There is the option as well to build the links on like the blog and obviously hosting that content and more in-depth content on the blog page as well. Because this is just like a little snippet of like 1 or 2 paragraphs rather than a full-fledged blog post on it. So it's just like a little snippet, yeah.
So you may well write 1 or 2 paragraphs answering the question directly within the FAQs on the category page, but then give someone an opportunity to click through and read a more expansive article if they want to.
Yeah.
So if an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time focusing on category SEO in 2024?
I think SEO should stop building links without a clear and strong strategy for their digital PR backlinks. It's just so then we aren't building links for the sake of building links.
Okay. And how often should an SEO sit down and define their link building strategy?
I think it should be like every 6 months. So sitting down with the client itself, seeing if there's any changes on their side in terms of the way they want to approach this, if there's other keywords or new focuses and topics that they want to expand on. Just working more collaboratively with the client and what they need and understanding that.
Superb. Eva Cheng is a digital PR consultant and you can find her over at evolvedsearch.com. Eva, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2024.
Thank you for having me.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2024, the book, over at SEOin2024.com.